It's my great honor to introduce our first award recipient, Rick Welts. It was less than a year ago that Rick made headlines and history when he came out as a gay man in an interview in the New York Times. Now, a lot of people have come out as gay men in the New York Times. Rick's point of difference was he was the first executive to come out, in his words, in the last industry where the subject of being gay is off limits. This is the world, of course, of men's professional sports. In so doing, Rick has had a significant impact not only in the sports arena, but across the spectrum of business. His willingness and courage to be open about his sexuality has opened new possibilities for young people who are both gay and enjoy sports. His very presence confronts outdated beliefs about what it means to be gay. So please welcome President and Chief Operating Officer of the Golden State Warriors, Mr. Rick Welts.
Wow, thank you. Please sit down. Thank you. How great is that? Thank you, Tom. Doesn't Celeste look great tonight? Holy cow. You look wonderful, really. Wow. I apologize for being a little sleepy tonight. Are there any dog lovers in the house? Yeah, I know. Somehow I guessed that. We have a sick dog at home, and last night was a really long night, so I apologize for that in advance. Actually, my partner Todd adopted Max, who's a one-eyed, really old pug as a rescue dog a few years ago. Now, Max, clearly different from all the other dogs, and I think there were probably times in Max's life that he wished he was a lot more like all the other dogs. And based on his condition, I don't think he'd probably been treated pretty well when he met Todd. But Todd gave Max the same love he would have given any other dog, and soon Max was the happiest dog in Sacramento. Turned out that being different wasn't so bad after all. But I got to tell you, when I was looking at Max last night and thinking about tonight, it's hard not to think that probably every one of us in this room, or at least most of us in this room, didn't really have that point in their lives where they felt probably different than anybody else. Fortunately for most of us, hopefully all of us, they had a Todd, or hopefully a whole bunch of Todds in their lives that made them feel pretty damn worthy of being loved, even if we weren't the same as everybody else. And it's true, working my whole life in the world of men's professional team sports, I probably spent most of that time feeling a little different than most of the other people I was working with. But unlike Max, what made me different wasn't really something you could see, and I was the one who chose to keep that part of my life separate from my coworkers for a very long time. I had a great life. I had great friends, great family who all shared my life. But there was that one corner of my life that I had made the decision I was not prepared to risk what the career implications might be by being my authentic self. But about a year ago, in January, after spending a lot of time talking with friends, talking with family, I'd made a decision that it was probably the right time in my life to share that with the people that I worked with. Now, there were a couple of ways I could have gone about doing that. One would have been just to share my story with all these great people that I do work with and have worked with in my career. But there was another route I could have considered. So that month, I asked a friend of mine, a kind of a PR guru in New York that I respected a lot, to come to dinner with me. It was a snowy night, Upper East Side, New York, and sat down with Dan and said, Dan, here's what I'm thinking about. and I've got a couple ways I can do this. I can do this just by taking care of my own business personally, and that'll be great for me. But I need your perspective. If I did this in a much more public way, would this be something that would be an important story, or would it be something that really wouldn't matter? And Dan looked across from me at the table that night and said, you know, Rick, actually he called me Ricky, if you're prepared to do this, I think, in fact, I'm sure this is page A1 on the New York Times. Oh, shit. All right, let's do that. Okay? So, I've spent my entire life, and probably a lot of you can relate to this, trying to be somebody behind the scenes. If I'm doing my job well, you really don't want to talk about the guys in the suits at the team. You want to talk about the players and the coaches. If I'm doing my job well, I'm focusing all the attention on them. So I'm a background guy. So nobody knew who Rick Welts was. But a whole bunch of people knew people that I knew. And so I spent the next month or so enlisting the help of a lot of really famous people that people would know and who could help tell my story if they were willing to, that would do it in a way that I thought would resonate with people that might make a difference. So kind of went on my tour, met with Bill Russell, former Boston Celtic, who has more championship rings than fingers, who's been a friend most of my life. Commissioner of the NBA, David Stern, our best player in Phoenix, two-time MVP, Steve Nash, and basically asked each one if they would be willing to participate in telling my story. And to a person, everybody that I met with said, sign me up. I'd be happy to be a part of that. I did get very lucky. I was connected with Dan Barry, a remarkable writer, Pulitzer Prize winner for the New York Times. Has the best job in journalism, basically can go wherever he wants to write about whatever he wants. And usually his stories get placed on page 1 of the Times. He spent several days with me. I was president of the Phoenix Suns at the time and spent a lot of time with me out there. And so here we go. We're coming up to May. The Times had agreed to treat this story in a very big way, as long as nobody else found out about it in advance. The last couple of days were a little sketchy. I was sequestered as the Washington Post and Bloomberg and a few other agencies were kind of chasing what they thought was a story, but they didn't know who. Got on a plane. The New York Times story was going to be published on a Monday. Got on a plane on a Sunday morning with Todd. Called Dan Barry that morning and said, okay, are we good? And he's like, yep, the story's going to go online at noon on our website and then tomorrow morning in the New York Times. So we took off from SFO and I don't know, somewhere about Kansas, 40,000 feet up in the air with no Wi-Fi. We're looking down going, holy cow, my whole life is changing down there. I have no idea what's happening. So it was a pretty remarkable flight. We touched down at JFK. I reached for the BlackBerry, turned it on, and basically exploded, okay, with messages. It was really, it was gratifying. It was messages from people that I've known my whole life. That I expected. That was great. People that I didn't know that work in my industry. The last kind of bastion of homophobia in our society, I think, who were just trying to reach out, to somebody who shared their story, who they weren't quite ready to tell theirs yet. A lot of parents, and maybe the most impactful ones were the kids, who reached out to find me and just to connect with somebody who might understand their story and just say, kind of thanks and encourage me for doing what I was going to do. What took me so long to get there, it was the fact that there really had been nobody to go before me in a position like mine that I could watch to say, you know what, this could turn out okay. So it was really the hope that in doing this in such a public way that it would really provide, hope for some little kid out there who might wonder whether he can pursue what is most important to him because of who he was or who she was. And if it did that, it would have been very worthwhile. You being here is really important. Your understanding and your involvement in Out and Equal, can really help so many people understand how diversity can enrich our business life, can enrich our personal life. I feel like I have a responsibility to continue to be part of this discussion going forward based on the platform that I've been given. Just this past 2 weeks, I've had an opportunity to speak to students at Stanford, Cal Berkeley, UC Davis, and I got to tell you, things are changing. They're interested. They get it. The day that New York Times story came out, my favorite phone call was to my now 14-year-old niece, Lexi, who couldn't wait to get on the phone to say, Uncle Rick, I'm like so excited because my, as she put it, coolness factor at school has gone up like 10 times now that they know you're my uncle, okay? Thinking back to when I was 13 or 14, I'm not sure that absolutely would have been the case. So I couldn't imagine a year ago I'd be standing up here. Congratulations, Mayor Parker, to Chely. Thanks to Out and Equal. I'm very humbled by the recognition. And, of course, special thanks to my partner, Todd. For creating such a special life for me, and that goes for Max as well. You all keep doing what you're doing because it's good and it's important. Thank you very much. Okay.